Hi everyone, this is Mrs. J, and I'm doing a read aloud of Thunder Rolling in the Mountains by Scott Odell and Elizabeth Hall, and we're on chapter 14, page 76. The next day, Yellowhair and her sister rode beside me on two of our ponies. They used our saddles and rode like Neemipu, with their legs hanging down on each side of the horse. Their full skirts were hiked up over their knees and showed their high boots with many buttons. A cold wind blew down upon us. Dirty Face's hair whipped around her face, and she kept brushing it out of her eyes. At night she moaned and cried out in her sleep. By day she shrank back in fear each time a warrior passed near her. There was nothing for her to fear. We did not harm women. I wanted to tell her so, but I had no words to say to Dirty Face, and she had no words to say to me. She did not understand my hand signs. A thought came into my head. I pulled a hat out of my pony's pack. It was a basket hat. Many of our women wore them. I put the hat on, and then I took it off and handed it to her, making signs. Dirty Face pulled the hat over her flying hair. She smiled a shy smile. She said no words, but for the rest of that day, she looked less like a trapped deer. I felt good inside. When the shadows grew long, we stopped for the night. Before the ponies were tethered, my father chose two that had carried heavy loads that day. He called to the settlers. "You go now," he said. "Travel down the river. Go back to your homes." I gave them bundles of camas root cakes and dried fish to eat on their way. Yellowhair and Dirty Face climbed onto the horses. Warriors swam and the animals crossed the river. The white man crossed, riding behind Two Moons. The settlers started off along the river bank, the man walking beside the horses. With tired ponies and a walking man, they would move slowly. That gave us more time. From many suns we traveled toward the rising sun. Our path led us past fountains of bubbling mud and beside small lakes. Whenever we could, we followed a stream. Scouts brought word that the soldiers waited for us on all the trails. No matter which one we took, the bluecoats waited for us. Peaks of the snowy Absecora Mountains rose up through the falling snow. "There are many tall peaks in the Absarokas," said Lean Elk, "more than the fingers you have on both hands. They all have passages between them, even those that look closed." He took us through a strange canyon. The towering rocks nearly met over our heads. They shut out the sun and made the world full of dark shadows. No birds sang here, and the only sounds came from our ponies' hoofs as they struck the earth from a roar of the rushing stream below. The path threaded through the mountains and between rocks. It was twisted and turned. It was so narrow that there was scarcely room for a single horse. In places that we could not pass until our scouts had chopped off pine boughs that hung across the path. Once more we slipped through the general's fingers. We crossed the river on the other side of the Absecoras and entered the land of the Crows. Looking Glass rode ahead to let the Crows know that our people were on their way. The Crows had always been peaceful with us against the Sioux, the Bannocks, and the cunning Assiniboines. At last we arrived at the Crow camp. The braves ate with us. They smoked long-stemmed ironwood pipes with the face of their chieftain carved onto the bowls and treated us as friends. They gave us bullets. But in the end, fearing the revenge the white soldiers might put on them, they refused to help us. My father called the council, all the chieftains who can give him advice. Lean Elk with his burning gaze, Olcott, Looking Glass, Whitebird, Tahulu Sote, Lonebird, Yellow Bull, Antelope, Redstone, and Ferocious Bear gathered to talk. Chief Joseph looked at each man as never before. "Now all the tribes are enemies. Every white man in these mountains is already our enemy," he said. "We were warned on that night 13 snows ago, when Preacher Chivington raided Black Kettle's village far south at the Sand Creek. With white soldiers he came down in the camp before the sky turned light. He smashed heads, cut throats, and slashed off ears. Blood ran across the earth and into the stream. That night the tribes learned to hate settlers. And now we hate ourselves," said Lean Elk through his teeth. "Ourselves?" shouted the young Gray Panther. Yellow Bull, the father of Red Moccasin Tops, drew a finger across his throat. Olcott said nothing. My father went on. "The one-armed general is far behind us, but the Click-Clack has told soldiers at every fort to look for us. They come from us at all sides. We are in danger." Then Ferocious Bear struggled to his feet and stood silent. From the day we had left Wallowa and crossed the flooding Snake and the Battle of Whitebird Canyon, from those days to this moment, no one knew what he thought. But my father said to the old man in a gentle voice, "Speak." Looking glasses cost us much, said Ferocious Bear. Whitebird said, Go north to the old lady's country. Go join Sitting Bull. But we heeded Looking Glass and came south. We have lost many warriors. We have lost many women and many children. Tehusote nodded his great head. Ferocious Bear's words are strong, he said. Looking Glass said the crows would fight beside us, but the crows will not help us. They are no longer our brothers. We must travel north and join Sitting Bull. Looking Glass was angry. His black eyes flashed like glass that had been struck by the sun's rays. So be it, he said. So be it, said my father.